campaign news this morning. It is 8:16, and John Dadian is here with us on this Sunday. And
good morning.
John, good morning to you.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
You were a big part of you were the moderator, I guess I should say, at a debate between the mayoral candidates Friday morning. How did it go?
It went very well. We had all four of the top-tier candidates there. It was a pretty standard format. We both had let them have opening closing statements and let the audience ask questions. It was pretty sedate, except in the closing remarks. Again, it was chosen at random for the opening and closing, but coincidentally, District Attorney Dumanis came after Nathan Fletcher in her closing. So in her closing, she gave him a couple jabs about negative campaigning.
Can you talk about those jabs? What exactly was her wording? What were some of the points she brought up?
Of course, I'm going to paraphrase her, but roughly what she said was that the one candidate who originally said, let's keep the high road, et cetera, was the first one to start the negative commercials, et cetera. And she did name Nathan Fletcher, who was sitting exactly right next to her.
So we do know now that Carl DeMaio's life partner, Jonathan Hale, has a criminal past. He has a criminal background. There's no question about that. The question this morning is, does it matter who someone running for mayor, does it matter who they associate with in their inner circle, and does character count when you are running for the top position in the 8th largest city?
At the presidential level, the last couple campaign cycles have shown that in polling that people don't say that character counts, which surprises me. But at the local level, especially in San Diego, I think it does count because, to quote famous Tip O'Neill quote, all politics is local. But in this particular case, you know, we need to emphasize the candidate has done nothing wrong. The candidate is not accused of doing anything wrong. And from what I understand, these charges are past history. So my assessment is I don't think it's going to really impact this race in the primary. However, it could reverse and backfire and help Carl DeMaio.
Interesting. How could it help him?
By people thinking that it's dirty tricks, dirty politics. I've heard these rumors for a couple months. You alluded to, you know, that you folks had heard.
They're not rumors, by the way. They're vetted and they're factual.
Well, and you mentioned that you had heard it before, but you didn't go with the story until this week. So people are going to wonder why now, 2 weeks before the race, is it coming out? And I think that's a legitimate question.
Yeah.
Carl called it a personal attack. He issued a statement yesterday saying that. What are your feelings on him using that?
Well, here's the bottom line. Anything that we're talking about, having somebody that's of the 8th largest city is going to be in charge of our lives. Everything they do is going to affect us, whether it's our water rates, et cetera. So on one hand, you could argue everything's fair game. Okay? But on the other hand, the bottom line is when it comes to Election Day, when you ask the question, does it matter, does personal attacks matter, to the voters who decide? To some people, it clearly is going to have an impact. I don't think he's going to lose more than just a couple votes on this one, and I think he's probably going to get a sympathy vote. In
past elections, John, when issues have been so important, as we are seeing in San Diego right now, I think pension and, you know, some of the economy, other things are huge right now in San Diego, and people who back Carl really think Carl should be the next mayor. Is this going to hurt any of his major supporters, you think?
I don't think at all. Again, not only his major supporters, but the average men and women who's voting on Election Day, or even as they're voting now on absentee, when they walk in that voting booth, they might think to themselves, yeah, I heard this story and I don't like it. And then they're going to think, who's going to fill my pothole? Who's going to lower my water rates?
Now you know why he's a moderator. You know, he plays it really well on both sides. It's very good. Hey, big news a couple of days ago. Ted Waite, the founder of Gateway, throwing in about $300,000 for independents across the country. Nathan Fletcher among those receiving his support. Good, bad? I mean, vetting the organization that Ted Waite is involved in, there's some discrepancy there and some questions about that organization. What do you think about this?
I think it's a great title for the organization. I See Purple.
Yeah.
A lot of sub meanings to that. I'd heard a couple of weeks ago that it was going to be a larger contribution. It was going to be specifically for Nathan Fletcher. Now, according to the published articles, it's $300,000, which is real money. I mean, that's substantial, but it's spread out over other candidates. So we're going to see. I think the key to see if this committee is going to be a power to see if Mr. Waite's strategy of getting other people of his stature to contribute the same amount of money. If that happens, yeah, it's going to have a huge impact.
All right. Well, that is all we have time for today, John. Thank you for coming.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
And last day, you need to register by tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow is the deadline to register to vote. It's your city. Make a choice.
All right. Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
All right, raising awareness about the dangers of skin cancer. We've talked a lot about this in the last week. Congressman Brian Bilbray's daughter, Brianna,